This is Three Downs. I'm Dave Naylor, joined by Farhan Lalji. And Farhan, we are less than a week away from the CFL's self-imposed deadline to get an amended 2020 CBA done with its Players Association for a shortened season and also lay down the framework for 2021 and beyond. Where are we in that process?
Well, Dave, the two sides have been meeting essentially every second day, and while those talks have been constructive, they're still dealing with 2020, and there's a lot to deal with. So from my perspective, if the league is still adamant that in order for there to be a 2020 season, we need to get 2021 and beyond agreed to, it's simply not going to happen. They're going to have to put 2020 to bed between now and the 23rd and then have to agree at that point that we're going to continue the dialogue on the future of the league and a new CBA before the 2020 season starts. They've still got a couple of months at that point to hammer out those issues. And I know there's a pressure point that they put in place for July 23rd, but if that's a true pressure point for getting it all done, it's simply not going to happen.
Well, and of course, the CBA talks are just one of the things on the league's to-do list. They also, I'm led to believe, have to have an indication from the federal government next week that it is going to provide financial assistance. Even if there are questions that still have to be answered and details ironed out. The same thing with a hub city that the CFL is planning. Again, if it's not all done, they have to have made a decision. They have to have approval that they're going to be able to go somewhere and house all the teams in one place. And while there may be a bit of time they can stretch, they really need an indication those things are going to be happening. And then you have the players. We still hear from some that look at it and say, is this really something I want to do? A third of a salary, living in a hub for between 2.5 to 3 months. As one player said to me this week, every other player in the league right now has a job or is looking for one. A lot of players preparing their contingency plans.
Yeah, and of course, money is front and center in all of this because you talk about prorated salaries. How does that impact all the bonuses, the report and pass bonuses, any games played or incentives during the years, all of that expected to be prorated? The players also have concerns around hub cities and what their living conditions are going to be like because, as you mentioned, the hub city hasn't been decided yet, so there really is no complete clarity on what it's going to look like for the players. And also one thing that's been underreported is the health and safety piece of this, and that is what happens if a player contracts COVID during his CFL employment at some point in that hub, whether it just be while he's in the hub or whether it happens during a game, and there's long-term ramifications. Where does that fall in terms of health and safety benefits? I know in the last CBA, the players really fought to get 3 years worth of benefits. Does a potential COVID situation fall into that? So a lot of questions. The players know there's going to be risk involved in all of this. It's a case of just how much risk they're willing to take and for how much.
Yeah, and in terms of the location of that hub city, Dr. Brent Roosen, the chief medical officer in the province of Manitoba, did acknowledge this week that they've had conversations with the CFL. He said he believes there are safe ways for the league to create a hub in Winnipeg, but the league continues conversations both with jurisdictions in Ontario and also in Saskatchewan, but we still think Manitoba is the most likely place that that hub city would land. And in other league news, the Edmonton Eskimo name is going to be retired. TSN reporting that this week. As of Friday, still no official word from the club. The organization had said end of July for a deadline to make a decision on this, and Farhan, apparently it's happened a lot sooner than that.
Yeah, and it's something the organization has been dealing with for really 5 years now as they've tried to stay engaged with the Inuit community and really get a feel for what's going on there. But then in the NFL, when the Washington Redskins make a decision to change their name, it in Canada puts a spotlight on the Eskimos, and then you've got sponsors involved asking for a name change at that point. The team decides to send out a survey to all of its season ticket holders and fans in general, and really that survey was highly criticized for potentially some leading questions, and they didn't get a lot of good feedback. There was quite a bit of pushback. That accelerated the process, and really, Dave, this has been a weight on the organization for some time, and I believe it was a weight they were really looking to shed and move on from this fight.
Of course, attention turning now to what the new name may be. As someone close to the organization said to me, things are very raw right now, not a specific plan laid out, although that's expected to come together quickly. Edmonton Empire, a name that's been bandied about, very popular. That part of that is because the team has used that name in marketing purposes, and in fact, they registered the domain. Others that are out there, Edmonton Elk, Edmonton Eagles, all of those names would allow the team to keep the EE logo that we are all so familiar with. For Farhan Lalji, I'm Dave Naylor. This has been Three Downs.